Hello, everybody. Welcome to ENC Health Watch. I'm your host today, Mesa Jones, and today I'm joined by Miss Shanelle Dawes, a heart attack survivor, here on Zoom today. Hi, Shanelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, well, I want to just get started by asking, when did you have your heart attack?
I had my heart attack. It was September 27th of 2016.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you remember anything particular about the day, like anything about your body or how you feel that stood out?
Yeah, it was just a normal day. I remember the day quite well. For the first part of the day, I felt great. I got out and I was 3 miles. I was walking, preparing for a half marathon. I was going to do more walking than running,
Oh, wow.
but I was preparing that. And I remember getting out there that day, felt great. My son
Mhm.
wanted spaghetti that afternoon, and so yeah, I went out that morning, felt wonderful. No signs that anything was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I came in and prepared dinner and sat down, and immediately I began to feel the distress in my body.
Okay. Can you describe that feeling, that distress that you talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I sat down, finished preparing dinner, like I said, and sat down and I began to feel really nauseous. I just started, just almost like I was coming down with something, like I had to throw up. I started sweating.
Wow.
And I just began to, feel like I was having trouble breathing. My son immediately saw the distress on my face and I was asking him for a glass of water. Could he get me some water? And so by the time he come back with the glass of water, I had just gotten up. I ran to the bathroom because I felt it, coming up at that time.
Yeah.
So I just began to just sweat profusely. I was just drenched. I had a great t-shirt on too, and it was
Mm.
literally just drenching sweat. And then, after a few moments of that, I really just didn't understand what's going on. So I just felt like I needed to lie down. And once I
Yeah.
lied down, that's when I started to begin to feel the massive chest pains just pounding on my chest. I had no idea what was happening to me. So I literally just laid there and it lasted about maybe 20 minutes or so, 20 or 30 minutes
Oh,
that
wow.
I just laid there.
Okay. Did you end up going to the hospital after, or what was the
So
process after? You didn't?
no.
Oh, gosh.
I self-diagnosed myself, and I always am so thankful, of course, to be here. But I did not go to the doctor initially. I
Mhm.
thought it was something that I had eaten. I didn't know if I was coming down, if I had food poison or something. But I laid there, and I ended up going through my entire week that way. I did not seek medical treatment, and so I went throughout my week just kind of sluggish. I knew something had happened to me, but I wasn't really quite sure, never thinking a heart attack at all. And so what ended up happening was about a week later, I began to get outside and start to walk again. I hadn't done any exercising all week. And I said, I want to get back into the routine of things. So I started walking, and almost immediately, I was walking with my mom. I started to feel that nauseous feeling and distress that I had felt previously. And I
Yeah.
told my mom then, I said, Mom, I need to go to the doctor. Something's wrong with me.
Mhm.
And I still couldn't explain it. Immediately, she said, okay. And we jumped in the car and started to head to the ER. And I was just kind of declining on my way to the ER. And by the time I got there, my speech was slurred. I couldn't speak. They immediately
Wow.
rolled me to the back. And I was like, I have some chest pains. And I found out within a few minutes after they, kind of hooked me up, he said that one of the doctors came and said that I had cardiac enzymes, in my blood flow, my
Mm-mm.
bloodstream. And I'm thinking, listen, sir, I need an antibiotic. I remember my girlfriend was having a surprise bridal shower. And I'm like, I have to get on the road,
Right.
to travel to the bridal party,
Mm.
maybe it's something that I had eaten. But he said I wasn't registering cardiac enzymes in my bloodstream. And so that's when I found out that day that I had a heart attack a week earlier. And, all that reality kind of hit me that number one, I had pretty much all of the symptoms of a heart attack, and I was unable to recognize one of them.
Yeah.
And then all on top of that, I did not seek medical treatment until a week later.
Okay. Can you talk about the cardiac enzymes that you brought up? What exactly are those? Was that?
So basically, it's like there was some signs or symptoms that something was going on in my heart. And when I went to the ER, when they drew the blood, they were able to read that. and determined that something was going on with my heart at the time. We didn't go into those details initially, but I
Yeah.
later found out it was a sign that I needed to be omitted. So nonetheless, I didn't make the bridal shower. They omitted me to the hospital, and everybody's really calm about it. No one really, was making it a big deal until it was a
Mhm.
big deal. And the cardiologist, Dr. Jerry Curry, came in and said, I was fairly young. I was 35 at the time. That he
Yeah.
just wanted to take a look. It shouldn't be anything too serious. Maybe I may need a stent or something. And so I was in the hospital for 2 nights of just monitoring me, taking my blood, and I was declining during that process. And then they went to take a look to see what exactly was going on. And that is when they realized that I was in complete trouble, pretty much blocked on the left side, and had to be airlifted
Wow.
that day to undergo emergency open heart surgery.
Prior to this, did you have any idea that your health was easing towards a heart attack at all?
No, I was just naive to it, thinking,
Yeah.
heart attacks are for older people, and I was in my
Mhm.
30s. So I really didn't think that anything like that could ever happen to me. I did have some signs that I was gaining some weight, and I did recognize that, but nothing that stood out that I had anything really going on medically. And I know I was producing a lot of fluid at that time, but at that time I did not know that's what it was.
Yeah.
But nothing else. I was pretty active. I moved around a lot. So I just had no idea that something like that was happening or that my health was declining and I
Right.
was leading towards a heart attack.
So it sort of came out of nowhere.
Came out of nowhere. I was the guinea pig.
That's
My
scary.
family, we don't have any type of family history of heart disease in my
Mhm.
family. So, that's just why my story just kind of unique because it really can happen to anyone.
To anyone. Wow. So what was the recovery like after? What did that like getting you back to normal?
Yeah. So for me, it was a bizarre. It was a
Mhm.
shocking experience for me. Obviously, undergoing that magnificent and just major in my life at such a young age. I did took my recovery very serious. They did request that I attend rehabilitation, so rehab services immediately after. So I did that in Wilton, and I had about 6.5 months of rehabilitation. I went about 3 to 4 times a week, just taking it slow, learning how to, get active again, moving
Yeah.
my body, walking. And so I took it pretty serious. And that process it was fun. It was, stressful, but it was fun to try to get myself back going. I had decided early on that this disease was not going to take me out and I was going to recover and that I was going to get back to my old self. So I
Yeah.
definitely did what I needed to do. And shortly after that, I reached out to my local American Heart Association agency in my area and just started volunteering. And that's kind of how I got affiliated with American Heart. I said, I need to learn more about what happened to
Yeah.
me. And then I walked into a big community
Mhm.
of so many people, and I've been connected to them ever since.
Okay. Can you talk about your work with the American Heart Association? Like, what do you do on a daily, or what does that look like?
Sure. Well, not really so much of a daily, but everything that they do in my area, I try to participate. Sometimes I host, as far as a coach, some local walks that they have in our area. It's always fun to get my family and some friends affiliated with that. They've come and participated with those walks for me over the years. I've been a part of their different Go Red for Women lunches, fashion shows, and different
Cool.
opportunities just to be able to advocate, for our communities and allow people to understand the significance of heart disease and how normal it is for the regular person to get something like this, and just making sure that people learn the signs and symptoms of a heart attack, being that I had a lot of symptoms and I couldn't recognize one symptom. And so just being able to be a face and to put with just a normal everyday person. And so I do connect with them volunteer services quite a bit throughout my community.
Okay. What has been like the most rewarding part of giving back in that way or being a part of the American Heart Association for you?
think for me, what's rewarding for me is just that I'm an open book. And so I receive DMs all the time and, messages. I'm like, well, I'm not a health professional, but people just feel comfortable reaching out, because they may have seen my story shared a time or two. So it's just been rewarding to, if you could save one person and have them notice some things about themselves, and then they take the opportunity to go get it checked out, they may be able to catch it before it becomes serious and they have to go through something, on the level that I did. So it is rewarding to hear ladies say, well, I'm walking now, or
Yeah.
I get my numbers checked and things of that nature. That's my biggest thing that I took away. Know your numbers, know where you are, know your levels, and make sure that you're, just communicating with your doctor as often as you need to. If you're noticing anything that's changing about your body, just be vocal about it and understand that you could be saving your life.
So you're sort of like an advocate for heart health now.
Well, a little bit,
A
yeah,
little bit.
unofficial.
Yeah.
Unofficial, but they have been amazing. It's just a huge. I did not know what I was walking into, and I remember walking into my first Go Red luncheon, and it was just a sea of red. And I was a new survivor at that time, and
Mhm.
everyone was just. It was just a community of people. I immediately felt welcome and warm. And I work with different Go Red agencies and American Heart Association local chapters around in North Carolina. So it's
Yeah.
just a big family, and they stuck with me for life. So
Okay. So prior to this, did you often get checkups? Did you often go to the doctor, or was it rare?
yes, I often went to the doctor and checked up regularly. The 2 years or so prior had been about 2 years for me. I had been working really, really hard. And so I'd not gone to the doctor in about 2 years. But prior to that, I had gone to the doctor every year and gotten my checkups. And I was always, normal, levels good and everything
Yeah.
like that. So just that little period of time that I had there, I did not go, but it hadn't gone any longer than about 2 years.
Okay. Do you think that period of time where you were working really hard, like, was that stressful enough to maybe lead you to the heart attack, you think?
Possibly, stress, could definitely have played a factor in it during that time for sure. Just looking back on it, it was quite a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I definitely had a lot going on as any other American in that time. That's working, single mom. So it may be. I just look back on it. I definitely make sure that I'm at the doctor, my regular checkups and
Yeah.
things of that nature, because just a simple preventative checkup, 10, 15 minutes talking about things with a professional can make all the difference for you.
Right. And I know you said prior to the heart attack, you were already walking and you were training for the marathon. Did you make any other changes after?
Yes, for sure. Diet, what we put in our body. I certainly, it's okay to eat what you want, just in moderation. That's like so my mom always tells me. So I definitely just tried to make sure I was making healthier food choices. I didn't eat terrible, but just kind of cut back on the out to eating as much as I was before, and just making sure that I take some downtime for myself and some
Oh,
quiet
yeah.
time and compartmentalize things. And so I made some self-care changes as well, and made sure that I was eating healthier and continuing to be active and move as much as I could.
Right. Well, during
Yeah.
that recovery process, what would you say was like the scariest thing to get back into doing, or like
I
put the most
think for
worry?
me, the scariest thing was that I couldn't understand why it happened, and trying
Yeah.
to learn about, I think initially the first maybe couple of months I was afraid to do anything. I didn't know what triggered this or what happened. And so although I was taking my recovery pretty serious, I was still kind of hesitant in a lot of ways, and understanding would I ever get back to 100%. So I think it was just
Mhm.
more mental than anything, just really trying to fight through that. But after a while, I found my balance. And I think for me, just, I have a young son. Well, he was young at that time. He's
Mhm.
19 now. And just worrying about how he was handling it all, and how was it affecting him? But he was a trooper. He was pretty strong, and he's been to a lot of events with me as well. So he's been
Yeah.
right there with me.
Who would you say was the most critical to your recovery, like in your family or around you? Who was the most helpful towards it?
I definitely would say my parents and my son collectively. They really push me. Like I said, my mom and my son, attended pretty much every event that I've ever been to, every walk. My mom is
Yeah.
really the true marathoner. I'm living vicariously through her. But they both have played a significant role. They are my true heroes, and they make it a big deal for me. I know they're very happy about how far I've come. So I would say my mom, my parents, and my son.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I know you talked about the American Heart Association. Do you ever host the events, or like what do those look like?
No, those are already hosted in our areas. Rocky
Okay.
Mount has the area, Raleigh, Durham, Greenville. It's a lot of different local agencies around. So I've not personally hosted any, but I definitely make myself known. I pop around to the different events that they have, and
Hmm.
they're phenomenal. You have survivors from all over, supporters from all over, family and friends of survivors, and so they're pretty grand events. From their luncheons to their fashion shows, Go Red for fashion shows that they host. So it's pretty amazing, and their walks are always top tier. You have sponsors, and people come out. They have heart attack trainings. They have CPR trainings. It's a lot of cool things that they offer at the walks and different events.
Okay. Well, I am curious, like with heart attacks, are you more prone to having one having another one now that you have had one?
I'm not really sure if I'm more prone to having a second one, but I definitely know that I recognize the signs and symptoms, and I'm
Yeah.
certainly mindful and make sure that I stay on top of that. Making sure that my salt intake is way down and different things that I can do that I can control on my end. I really don't have the medical facts on that if I'm prone to it because I've had one previously, but I'm certainly more aware for sure.
Okay. Well, with that, what would you recommend to anyone from your experience, whether they've had one or had any in their family? What would you recommend?
Well, my number one thing is for you to just know your numbers, and what I mean by that, like I had tried to describe earlier, is when you go to your doctor, just have those conversations. If you're gaining a significant amount of weight, making sure your blood pressure, your cholesterol, make sure you know where you are, and if you have any elevated levels, that you can discuss with your doctor some strategies and some things that you can do so that you can get that under control and preventative care so that you can take care of yourself. So just know where you stand and make sure you say something. Don't self-advocate, don't self-diagnose.
Hmm.
Just make sure you say something to your doctor as soon as you can.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add regarding the topic at all?
No, I think I'm good. I hope that was okay.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Absolutely. I
Right.
appreciate you for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of ENC Health Watch. We'll see you guys next time.